The dropship screamed through the atmosphere like a dying animal. Inside the cargo bay, 50 cadets sat strapped into shock seats, their faces pale beneath the cold blue glow of emergency lights. Frost crawled across the metal walls despite the ship's thermal shielding. Outside waited Valkoros 9, the deadliest survival world in the Coalition Academy network. A planet classified as a Level 9 death world. 3 moons. Oxygen storms. Predators larger than armored tanks. Temperatures capable of flash-freezing exposed flesh in seconds. And today's trial was simple. Survive 48 hours. Reminder, barked Commander Threx, a towering reptilian Varkle with bronze scales and mechanical eyes. No rescue will be provided for those who fail. The Coalition does not waste resources on weakness. The alien cadets nodded nervously. Most were elite-born. Children of admirals. War clans. Noble houses. Only one cadet looked bored. The human girl sat near the rear ramp, boots propped casually against a crate. Mara Vance, 19 years old. Earthborn. Dark braided hair. Scar across her chin. Tiny compared to the others. The cadets whispered constantly about her species. Humans were new to the Coalition. Underrated. Mocked. Soft-skinned. Emotionally unstable. Physically unimpressive. At least compared to species evolved under heavier gravity or harsher atmospheres. A 4-armed Kethri cadet sneered toward her. You understand this world kills apex predators? Mara shrugged. Cool. The Kethri blinked. That is your response? Should it have been longer? Several cadets chuckled nervously. Commander Threx glared at her. You find this amusing, human? Mara looked out the frost-covered viewport. Snowstorms the size of continents spiraled below. Honestly, she said, this place looks relaxing. Silence. Even the engine hum seemed to stop. Then laughter erupted across the bay. Not friendly laughter. Mocking. One cadet nearly wheezed. Relaxing. Another pointed at the storm outside. That wind can strip skin from bone. Mara tilted her head. Yeah, we call that February. The ramp exploded open. Instantly the cold invaded. Several cadets cried out as the temperature alarm screamed across their suits. -73°C. The wind hit like a hammer. Cadets stumbled down onto the frozen surface, boots crunching into waist-deep snow. Valkoros stretched endlessly beneath black skies and jagged glaciers. Wrecks of ancient ships protruded from the ice like skeletons. Commander Threx's voice thundered through external speakers. Retrieve the beacon located 80 kilometers north. Any cadet unable to reach extraction dies here. The dropship lifted away and abandoned them. Within 10 minutes, chaos began. A Vexery cadet collapsed from thermal shock. 2 others wandered into a hidden crevasse. One panicked when something enormous roared beneath the ice. Mara simply adjusted her scarf, then started walking. No hesitation. No fear. An insectoid alien named Silek hurried beside her, shivering violently. How are you functioning? Functioning. The cold. Mara frowned. This. She removed one glove. The exposed hand steamed in the frozen air. Silek stared in horror. You will lose appendages. Nah. You are experiencing nerve death. I'm experiencing nostalgia. The wind intensified. Visibility vanished. The cadets grouped together desperately, but panic spread fast. Then came the first attack. The ice exploded upward. A creature burst from beneath the snow, 6-legged, pale white, jaws layered with rotating teeth. A frost maw. 3 cadets died instantly. Screams echoed through the blizzard. The survivors fired plasma rifles wildly. The beast shrugged off the shots. It lunged again, and Mara stepped forward. Seriously, she muttered. She grabbed a fallen thermal spear. Waited. The monster charged. At the last second, Mara dodged sideways with terrifying speed and drove the spear upward through the creature's throat. The frostmaw collapsed in a spray of black blood. Silence followed. Snow drifted gently over the corpse. 50 cadets had arrived. Now only 46 remained. And for the first time, the aliens looked at the human with fear. Night on Valkoros wasn't dark. It was alive. Green auroras twisted across the heavens while distant screams echoed through the ice canyons. Beneath the snow, things moved. Huge things. The surviving cadets huddled inside the wreckage of an ancient mining station, sealing broken entrances with scavenged metal plating. Inside, panic simmered. Outside, the storm worsened. We should stay until daylight, argued a feathered Tauran cadet. And freeze to death? Snapped another. Silac pointed toward Mara, who sat near a broken reactor eating something from a silver packet. What is the human consuming? Mara glanced up. Oat bar. The cadet stared. You eat during survival stress? Calories matter. Commander Threx's voice suddenly crackled through their comms. Cadets. New mission parameters. Everyone froze. Satellite scans confirm hostile movement approaching your position. A hologram appeared. Dozens of red dots. Then hundreds. The room erupted. That's impossible. We're surrounded. What are those? Threx answered coldly. Glacial revenants. Every alien in the room went silent. Even Mara looked mildly interested. The revenants were nightmare creatures, bioengineered predators abandoned after an ancient war. Fast, coordinated, nearly unstoppable in large numbers. Estimated survival probability, Threx continued, is now 12%. The transmission ended. One cadet whispered, We're dead. Then the station shook. Something slammed against the outer wall. Again. Again. Metal buckled inward. Screeching echoed outside. Mara stood slowly. Okay, she sighed. Now this feels more like home. The others stared. How are you calm? Shouted the Tauren. Mara checked the charge on her rifle. Because panicking burns oxygen. The wall exploded inward. The first revenant entered. It resembled a wolf built from exposed bone and ice-covered muscle, eyes glowing blue through the darkness. Then 10 more followed. The cadets opened fire. Blue plasma lit the station. Screams erupted. One revenant tore a cadet in half. Another climbed across the ceiling. The formation collapsed instantly. Except around Mara. She moved with brutal precision. 3 shots. 3 kills. A revenant lunged. She grabbed its jaw midair and slammed it into a support beam hard enough to crack its skull. The room fell silent for half a second. A Kethri cadet whispered, What are humans? Mara didn't answer. More creatures poured inside. Then she did something insane. She smiled. Finally. She charged them. The fight became chaos. Mara used the environment like a weapon, rupturing coolant pipes, collapsing catwalks, forcing creatures into narrow kill zones. The cadets slowly rallied around her. Not because she outranked them, because survival suddenly depended on staying near the human. After 20 brutal minutes, the last revenant fell twitching into the snow. Bodies covered the station floor. Cadets. Monsters. Blood frozen black against steel. Only 31 cadets remained alive. The survivors stared at Mara in disbelief. The Tauren finally spoke. You fought like a war beast. Mara wiped blood from her cheek. Nah. She looked toward the storm outside. You should see humans when they're scared. Then the ground trembled. Hard. Everyone froze. Something enormous moved beneath the ice. Even Mara stopped smiling. Far below them, something ancient had awakened. The mining station groaned like it was being crushed by a giant hand. Snow cascaded from the ceiling. Far beneath the frozen ground came a sound so deep it vibrated inside their bones. One cadet dropped to their knees. What is that? Nobody answered. Then Commander Threx reappeared on comms, and for the first time since the trial began, the Varkal commander sounded afraid. All surviving cadets evacuate immediately. Static crackled. The subterranean life form has become active. Mara grabbed her rifle. How big? Silence. Then, Continental. The station erupted into panic. Cadets scrambled for exits while alarms screamed through the ancient facility. The ice outside split open across the horizon. At first it looked like a mountain rising. Then it moved. A colossal shape emerged from beneath the glacier, armored in black crystalline plates, glowing blue fissures running across its body like molten veins. Eyes the size of dropships opened slowly. The world itself seemed to shake beneath its breath. Silac whispered the ancient name in horror. The Jotun. Even Commander Threx sounded shaken. The creature was believed extinct. Mara stared upward. Okay, she admitted quietly. That's new. The Jotun roared. Entire glaciers shattered. A shockwave hurled cadets through the snow. One transport shuttle descending from orbit was caught midair by a beam of freezing vapor and instantly crystallized before exploding. The survivors ran. Not in formation. Not strategically. Pure survival instinct. Mara dragged an injured cadet behind wreckage as ice spikes erupted around them like artillery fire. Move, she shouted. We can't outrun that, screamed the Tauren. He was right. The Jotun advanced with horrifying speed despite its size. Every step triggered avalanches. Then the sky lit up. Coalition warships descended through the storm. Massive cruisers opened fire with orbital cannons. Blue energy slammed into the creature. The cadets cheered, until the smoke cleared. The Jotun remained standing, unharmed. A pulse of freezing energy erupted from its body. 3 coalition ships instantly froze solid and shattered apart in orbit. Debris rained like meteors. Commander Threx whispered, "Impossible." Then all communications died. The coalition fleet retreated. They had abandoned the planet, and the cadets with it. Silence settled across the frozen wasteland. The survivors stared at the burning wrecks falling from the sky. The mighty coalition, defeated in minutes. Then Mara spoke. "There's a thermal core under the old mining tunnels." Silac blinked. "What?" "The station reactor. Old geothermal system." "How do you know?" "I read the survival briefing. Nobody else had." Mara pointed toward the distant mountains. "If we overload the core while that thing's above it, maybe we crack the glacier underneath." The Tauren stared. "You intend to kill it?" Mara checked her ammo. "No." She looked at the colossal creature marching through the storm. "I intend to bury it." The cadets exchanged uncertain glances. A Kethari stepped forward slowly. "Human." His voice trembled. "What if your plan fails?" Mara gave a tiny grin. "Then we improvise." For the first time in coalition history, alien cadets followed a human into battle willingly. Deep beneath the ice, they entered abandoned tunnels glowing with ancient reactor light. Above them, the Jotun searched, hunting, waiting, and somewhere in the darkness ahead, Mara finally looked afraid. Not of dying, but of failing the people now depending on her. The geothermal core pulsed like the heart of a dying star. Ancient machinery towered above rivers of molten energy, casting red light across the frozen cadets gathered inside the chamber. Warning sirens echoed endlessly. Reactor instability critical. Silex stared at the controls helplessly. "The overload sequence requires manual activation." "Meaning?" asked Mara. The insectoid alien hesitated. "Someone must remain behind." Silence. Everyone understood. The Tauren cursed quietly. Another cadet shook their head. "We're finished." But Mara stepped toward the reactor. "Not yet." Commander Threx suddenly returned over emergency comms, his signal distorted by interference. "Cadets, the evacuation ships are en route." Hope surged briefly. Then Threx continued. "They will arrive in 19 minutes. Everyone looked upward. Far above them, the Jotun's roars shook dust from the ceiling. 19 minutes was forever. The creature was already overhead. Mara studied the reactor. Then something strange happened. Commander Threx spoke softly. "Human, why are your people like this?" Mara frowned. "Like what?" "You continue fighting after survival becomes impossible." The chamber grew quiet. Even the alarms seemed distant. Mara leaned against the console. "When Earth joined the coalition, you guys scanned our history, right?" "Yes." "Then you know Earth tried killing us first." Several cadets exchanged confused looks. Mara continued. "Ice ages. Superstorms. Plagues. Predators. Wars. Famines." Her eyes reflected the reactor glow. "Humanity survived a death world before we ever reached space." The realization hit them slowly. Valkoros wasn't terrifying to humans because humans had evolved somewhere worse. Mara smiled faintly. "You think humans are weak because we're small." A massive impact shook the chamber. The Jotun was digging downward. But Earth taught us something important. Another impact. Closer. When everything's trying to kill you. The ceiling cracked. You learn how to fight back. The Jotun's claw burst through the chamber roof. Cadets screamed. The colossal eye peered downward through falling debris. Mara grabbed the reactor detonator. "Go!" The survivors ran for the escape tunnels. But Silex stopped. "You'll die." Mara looked toward him calmly. "Probably." "No." Silex's voice cracked with panic. "You cannot stay behind." Mara shoved him toward the others. "That's an order." The alien froze. The human had never acted like a leader before. But now, everyone obeyed. As the cadets fled through collapsing tunnels, Mara climbed the reactor platform alone. Above her, the Jotun tore deeper into the facility. Massive jaws opened. Cold vapor flooded the chamber. Mara activated the overload. Warning. Core detonation in 60 seconds. The creature lunged. Mara fired every remaining round into its glowing eye. The beast roared violently. The tunnels collapsed behind the escaping cadets. Silex screamed into the darkness. "Mara!" Then the mountain exploded. A sun erupted beneath the glacier. The entire valley collapsed inward. Millions of tons of ice swallowed the Jotun whole. Shockwaves tore across Valkoros. From orbit, coalition observers watched in stunned silence. One tiny human had done what an entire fleet could not. Then the transmission cut to static. No life signs detected. Mara Vance was gone. 3 months later, the coalition Senate stood silent beneath towering holographic banners. Representatives from hundreds of worlds watched the memorial broadcast. 50 cadets had entered Valkoros 9. Only 30 survived. And every survivor told the same story. The human saved them. Commander Threx himself stood before the Senate. The mighty Varkal warrior looked older now. Humbled. For centuries, he said, the coalition classified humanity as a low-threat species. A hologram of Mara appeared above the chamber. Small. Scarred. Smirking. We were wrong. The Senate listened carefully. Humans are not dangerous because of strength. Images flashed across the chamber. Earth hurricanes. Wars. Burning cities. Astronauts launching into darkness. They are dangerous because they adapt. More images followed. Mara fighting revenants. Leading cadets. Standing before the Jotun. They endure conditions that break other species. Threx lowered his head. And when faced with extinction, the hologram froze on Mara's final smile. Humans refused to surrender. The chamber fell silent. Then alarms suddenly erupted across the Senate hall. Emergency signals flashed red. Unknown vessel detected. Massive gasps filled the room as cameras turned toward orbit. A ship emerged above the capital world. Damaged. Frozen. Barely functioning. Its registry stunned everyone. Academy Dropship 14. Impossible. The vessel docked shakily. Security forces flooded the hangar. The hatch hissed open. Smoke drifted outward. Then footsteps echoed slowly from inside. One figure emerged wrapped in torn thermal gear. Scarred. Exhausted. Alive. Mara Vance squinted against the lights. The entire hangar stood frozen in disbelief. Commander Threx stepped forward. How? Mara coughed. Found another tunnel. Silence. Then. And honestly, she added, looking around the pristine alien capital, this place is way less scary than Earth public transportation. Nobody laughed at humans anymore. Not after Valkoros. Because the galaxy finally understood the truth. Death worlds did not create monsters. They created humans.